Renu Rana Ra.
On this occasion we will discuss the history of Nefertiti. Nefertiti was the wife of the pharaoh Akhenaten of the 18th dynasty of Egypt. Her name means, "the beautiful has come," and, because of the world-famous statue created by the sculptor Thutmose, she is the most recognized queen of ancient Egypt. She was brought up at the royal court in Thebes, possibly the daughter of Amenhotep III's vizier, a man called I, and became engaged to his son, Amenhotep IV, around 11 years of age. There is evidence to suggest that he was a convert to the cult of Aten, the sun god, at an early age, and that he may have influenced Amenhotep IV's later decision to abandon the cult of the Egyptian gods in favor of the Aten-centered BC monotheism. After he changed his name to Akhenaten and ascended the throne of Egypt, Nefertiti ruled with him until her death, after which she disappeared from historical records. Although it seems that Nefertiti is I's daughter, this claim is far from proven. Inscriptions refer to I's wife Tai as Nefertiti's wet nurse, not his mother, and nothing is known about I's lesser wives. I, in addition to his other duties, was tutor to the young Amenhotep IV and may have introduced the prince to Nefertiti when the two were children. Nefertiti and her sister, Mudnajame, were of course regular members of the court at Thebes, and, whether or not I introduced her to Amenhotep IV, the two would have known each other for that reason alone. Ancient drawings and inscriptions show his early interest in the cult of Aten, but, since every Egyptian favored one god or another, there is no reason to believe he had any ideas related to the BC monotheism or exalting Aten above other gods. All that can be stated with certainty is that both sisters were Atenists and may have influenced Amenhotep IV's interest in the cult from an early age. Any definitive statement as to its influence on the rise of the BC monotheism in Egypt must be speculative in the absence of conclusive evidence to support it, just as there is little information about his life in general. By the time she was 15 she married Amenhotep IV and, after Amenhotep III's death, she became Queen of Egypt. It was at this stage that some scholars suggest that he at most used his influence on Amenhotep IV to abandon Egypt's ancient religion and begin his religious reforms, but again, this is unfounded. In the 5th year of his reign, Amenhotep IV changed his name to Akhenaten, abolished Egyptian religious practices, closed the temples, and established Aten as the only true god. While it is possible he created the BC monotheism out of purely religious beliefs, it is more likely a political maneuver to cut off the power and wealth of the priests of the god Ammonius, whose cult was immensely popular. Throughout the 18th dynasty, the cult of Ammonius grew in wealth and prestige so much that, by Akhenaten's time, the cult's priests were almost as powerful as the pharaohs. Instituting the pre-Christian monotheism, and outlawing the old religion, would completely restore power to the throne, and that's exactly what it does. The god Aten is now considered not only a powerful Egyptian god but also the god of creation, the one true god of the universe. The couple had 6 daughters, Meritaten, Meketaten, Ankhesenpeten, Neferneferuiden Tashret, Neferneferur and Setipanra, but had no sons. By his lesser wife, Kia, Akhenaten had 2 sons, Tutankhamun and possibly before Merenker. Akhenaten married 2 of these daughters, Meritaten and Ankhesenpeten, and may have had children by them. However, what is clear from the inscriptions that have survived the subsequent purges of their reign, is that the royal couple were fiercely loyal to one another and were constantly with their daughters. The royal family originally lived at the Malkata Palace in Thebes, which was built under Amenhotep III but renovated under Akhenaten and renamed Tihaneten. Watterson, and others, also point out that the palace was abounding in gold decoration and ornate reliefs. As lavish as Malkata may have been, the new palace in the city the couple founded, Akhetaten, was even grander and, more importantly, served as a symbolic goal in the new Aten religion. In her role as part of the god couple, Nefertiti may also have been a co-guardian. Akhenaten combined the cartouche with his as a sign of equality, and there is evidence that she took on the traditional duties of the pharaoh while her husband occupied himself with theological reforms and architectural renovations. Images that have survived depict him officiating at religious ceremonies, receiving foreign dignitaries, moderating diplomatic gatherings, and even in the traditional royal role of a king lashing out at Egypt's foes. None of these images would have been made up if there wasn't some truth behind the stories they depict, so Nefertiti must have had more power than any woman in Egypt since the time of Hatshepsut. From the royal court in Akhenaten, she sent royal decrees and made decisions for which, according to tradition, her husband was responsible. Around the 14th year of Akhenaten and Nefertiti's reign, their daughter Mekhetaten died in childbirth at the age of 13. A relief image shows the couple standing over their daughter's body in a state of mourning. Shortly after that, Nefertiti disappeared from the historical record. There are many theories offered to explain his sudden disappearance and, among them are: she fell out of favor with her husband as she was unable to produce a male heir and was replaced by Kia. He left the Aten religion and was banished by Akhenaten. He killed himself in grief over the loss of his daughter. He continued to rule under the name before Merenker until his stepson, Tutankhamun, was old enough to take the throne. Of these theories, none of them is provable except the fourth, and even that, many argue, is uncertain. The problem with the other theory is that Akhenaten already had a male heir in Tutankhamun, so would not have abandoned his wife, as there is no evidence to support Nefertiti leaving Aten's cult. He was still alive after his daughter's death, and the throne name of Akhenaten's successor was the same as his. The reason why Theory 2 remains popular is due to evidence that the cult of the old gods began to revive towards the end of Akhenaten's reign, and, it is thought, this would not have been possible without some kind of royal support or encouragement. As it was considered unlikely that Akhenaten would abandon the religion he had created, there has been speculation that his associates were behind it all. However, a revival of old religious practices could easily become a grassroots movement by Egyptians who are tired of being forced to abandon the country's traditional beliefs. The Egyptians believed that their actions were closely related to the balance of the heavens and that their relationship with the gods was very important. By abandoning the gods of ancient Egypt, Akhenaten would throw the universe out of balance, and it is likely that the former priests of Ammonius, and other cults, eventually decided to try to restore harmony to their lands on their own, without consulting their rulers. Since it is known that Nefertiti was a devotee of Aten even before Akhenaten's conversion, and that she regularly took part in religious services, as well as the fact that there are no images or inscriptions that provide evidence that she left the cult, it is highly improbable that he would lead a return to traditional Egyptian religious practice. The people's hatred of their pharaoh's new monotheistic religion was exemplified in its total eradication following the death of Akhenaten's successor, Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun himself, after ascending to the throne, abandoned the Aten religion and returned Egypt to traditional practices. His successor, I, continued his policies, but the last pharaoh of the 18th dynasty, Horemheb, went further than the two. Horemheb, claiming he had been chosen by the gods to restore true Egyptian religion, tore down Akhenaten's temples, damaged the inscriptions, and tried to erase all evidence that the heretical king and his family once ruled Egypt. Due to Horemheb's edict, very little is known about Nefertiti, and other nobles associated with the Amarna period, today. Miracles, indeed, not so little is known, but, given Horemheb's hatred of Akhenaten's reforms, and his dedication to the mission of erasing the king and his family from history, modern scholars have information about the Amarna period at all. Thank you for following our videos. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe so you can always follow video updates from us.